Someday we'll get paid for this.
Hi friends, it's time for Scrapple News. And once again from high atop the Scrapple News towers in downtown Philadelphia, I'm AP Ticker. And it is good to be back after such a long hiatus, news fans. I'd have been right here newsing away, but a few weeks ago I got called in for jury duty. And I leapt at the chance. I can't imagine a better vacation than being paid 40 bucks a day to take part in our legal system.
You know, that's your opinion, but respect this process.
I was treated to all the free bagels I could eat, and the complimentary coffee was delicious. Me and my fellow jurors became the best of friends. They called us the Dirty Dozen. Well, we called ourselves that. We still keep in touch, and we're planning a reunion dinner party for next month. There's nothing like taking time off of work to serve justice. And now I'm back and I'm ready to roll.
If you don't like what the judge is doing, then...
Speaking of justice, here's a hefty serving. Former Judge Mark Ciavarella was sentenced to 28 years in pound-your-ass prison and has to pay more than $1 million in fines for selling Pennsylvania's children to private prisons.
Petulance, petulance, petulance.
This waste of sperm and eggs accepted bribes from for-profit prisons and then sentenced juvenile offenders on bogus charges to serve time there. The overall concept of prisons for profit is wrong because it creates a demand for prisons. I'm glad to see a monster like Ciavarella locked up, but 28 years seems a little light for a crime that's a moral millimeter away from human slave trafficking. He deserves life in prison, with all his wealth and the sales from his personal assets invested in a collective college fund for the children he wronged. Now that would be real justice. If you are unemployed in PENNSY, then that must mean you're a hop-headed, no-account stoner.
Fit the crown to wash it down, I'm downtown, snapping rules, ain't no shame up in my game.
At least, that's what Governor Tom Corbett thinks. In a radio interview last week, a bleary-eyed, possibly hungover governor complained that smoking pot and failing your piss tests is the reason why you are unemployed.
There are many employers that say, you know, we're looking for people, but we can't find anybody that has passed the drug test, a lot of them. And that's a concern for me.
So weed is why there's rampant unemployment. And not because of the continued extinction of the middle class, brought on by a cabal of craven, corpulent, and corrupt capitalists. Which reminds me, if there is a minimum wage, how come there's no maximum wage? Rumor has it that you like to hit the sauce, Gov. Perhaps this is a case of the raven calling the crow black. And speaking of unemployment, a study by the St. Louis Federal Reserve released last week found out that of the $108 billion paid out in unemployment benefits in 2011, some 3.3, notice the way I say three, trilling the R's, tricky, huh? Some $3.3 billion was paid out dishonestly. The largest share of the fraud payments, $2.2 billion, went to people who were still working. In other words, 97% of the funds allocated for unemployment are being used properly. 97% is a solid A in anyone's book. So that means that unemployment insurance is probably the most successful program in U.S. history.
You know, that's your opinion, but respect this process.
On a personal note, I'd like to pour one out for George Jones. George Jones, simply the best voice country music has ever heard. Finally, Let's pour one out for recently deceased guitarist Jeff HANNEMAN of the band Slayer. You know, the first time I heard the song Angel of Death, that song was so fucking fast that I thought the cassette player on my boombox was broken. Back in the 80s, they were the band that separated the men from those pussy-fingered Nerf metal Bon Jovi-loving boys. This was the music your favorite pop-pop listened to. But when you pour one out, please make sure that you use Commonwealth Cider, made by the Philadelphia Brewing Company. Commonwealth Cider, a taste so good, even the dead will rise up and enjoy it. Till next time, folks, I'm AP Ticker, and parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say goodnight till it be tomorrow.
Hi everyone, my name is Alex, and this is a YouTube recording of a response from Governor Tom Corbett's response in regards to what he thought about the unemployed. First off, motherfucker, you're looking at one of the thousands of people who are struggling to get a job, and you have the fucking nerve to go and tell us that we're drug addicts? Well, let me tell you something, asshole. You have no fucking idea what it meant to be unemployed.